Hey there, Luminary here, and it is the middle of the night, and I recorded this to answer a question. I didn't really get around to recording the LOL matches today. It's been very busy between doctor's appointments for family members and watching children and all kinds of other stuff. Excuses, I know. I'll get it out here soon, and just like I thought, according to the last video, it was registered as copyright. It's now being monetized by Riot, which is fine. I'd rather than monetize it because it is their intellectual property. But I don't want to fight fair use because I didn't commentate it very well. Now, if I do some badass commentary, I might fight it. But they can have the money on stuff that I'm not necessarily not trying on, but I get confused on because it's still kind of new, so it's kind of hard to commentate exactly what I'm doing, and it's more reaction, and you get a lot of But that's beside the point. Let's get on to this question. I'm going to butcher the name, but Scoopiki Trollbane. I hope that's the correct pronunciation. If not, I'll have to throw it into Google Translator without the Trollbane on it. But yeah, he asked in the comments, what do I think of MMOs? Do I like them? If so, do you think about, let's see here, what do you think about the new MMO that's coming out this year, Guild Wars 2? I think it's fantastic and is setting in the MMO world for a new path in the MMO world. Okay, well, that's a very, very, very deep question. I think I've talked about this in some of my other videos, but it wasn't necessarily focused on just that. It was just me rambling on about my opinion. And, well, funnily enough, that's what this video is going to be, except it's going to be focused on this question solely. I spent a very unhealthy amount of time in EverQuest. EverQuest was the first MMO I ever played, and by unhealthy amounts of time, it was pretty much all I did. It was the only game of its kind at the time, and nothing else would satiate my thirst for video games other than this game, because it kept changing, and there were other people playing, and you could talk. There's a lot to MMOs that I absolutely love, such as the community that's built within the game, and the content is okay, but looking back on it all, it wasn't necessarily the content that kept me around, it was the people. I just learned to play the game really well. I spent a lot of time in MMOs. I started with EverQuest. I picked up Asheron's Call, didn't spend much time in there. Mind you, EverQuest was an ongoing thing between the year 1999 and 2006, 2005. Trying to think of where I stopped. It was about 6 or 7 years. But during that time, I picked up Asheron's Call, Asheron's Call 2. I beta tested Anarchy Online. I didn't do very well in that because my PC couldn't run it. I was actually running an old Riva TNT2 with 128 megs of RAM, which is fine for the game, but I had like 64 megs of system memory, so you can only imagine the frame rates. Anyway, but I beta tested Anarchy Online. That was a fun game. I ended up paying for it later on before it went free to play. Then I got into the beta test scene. The beta test scene was where it was at. This was before it was all glamorous. Like, if you buy my game, you get to play it before it's even released. And have your characters wiped during release. No, it wasn't anything like that. It was a skill type thing. I have a lot of background in beta testing. Like I said, I did Anarchy Online. I did Star Wars Galaxies. I did Auto Assault. City of Heroes. What else did I do? Horizons, Empire of Asteria. I've done quite a bit. And, I don't know, getting an open beta invitation in my mail doesn't excite me anymore. But yes, I like MMOs for the community, but there are so many of them out right now that there's no real community. And I say that in the sense of, if you don't like it, you move on to the next one. The only game that has had a consistent community that I've played would have been World of Warcraft. And Cataclysm kind of ruined that for me, because all the people I knew that I talked to while I was running laps in Dalaran on my chopper are long gone and moved on to different games, either Rift or just pick one, it doesn't really matter. My view on it all really is that for the new MMOs that are coming out this year, not necessarily specific to Guild Wars 2, but to most of them actually, it's still a hotkey based MMO. The mechanics are somewhat the same. Sometimes they have more real-time events included into them, meaning that when you press a button, there's a lot more activity in the combat, as opposed to WoW, where you just stand there and take a beating and dish a beating. You have to dodge. You have to literally dodge stuff and roll out of the way. Like Dungeons and Dragons Online, you can move out of the way of incoming fire. Or if a trap springs, you can dodge arrows. Stuff like that. I'm like Star Wars, The Old Republic is another hotkey MMO with lightsabers. Mind you, the only attraction to that game that I have right now is the fact that it's done by BioWare. That's it. That's also the same reason why I picked up Final Fantasy 11, I think? Yeah, it was 11. Was because it was made by Squaresoft. There are a few companies out there that I will throw my money at, whether I play the game or not, and that's Squaresoft and BioWare. Oh, and Maxis. Maxis tends to put out some very unique stuff. A lot of people didn't like Spore. I loved it. But that's getting off topic. That's a question for another time. I think that it's going to be the same mechanical experience with a new coat of paint as far as content is concerned. Guild Wars 2 strikes me as one of those where there's a lot more activity in the actions that you perform, meaning that you can dodge out of the way of things. It's not a predestined amount like a D&D game would have been, like EverQuest. If somebody shoots an arrow at you, and regardless of how much you move, if the roll hits right, you're going to get hit no matter what. So you have this arrow trailing behind you or in front of you, or depending on which way you're running. It doesn't really matter. Guild Wars 2 probably has a little bit more interactivity with that. I have no idea what the lore's like in Guild Wars 2. That's another thing too. The story really has to be captivating. Like the WoW story is pretty captivating, and I haven't kept up with it. I mean, one of the guys at the radio station, Pride, he does But Wait, There's Lore, and that's all he talks about is WoW lore and how it applies and what's going on with the game and everything else. For me, my time, if it stuck around and I decided to do a podcast then, would have been EverQuest. I was highly knowledgeable in the lore and everything going on with that game, from why the Plane of Fear was opened up to, just crazy stuff. That's in a memory long gone. I've slept since then. And then you've got the cookie cutter Korean MMOs, which I've also talked about. And I've talked about in great length. It seems like they all use the same kind of engine with a new coat of paint. And I mean that in the sense of all their stat screens look the same. All their mission statuses, I should say, not mission statuses, all their mission completes look the same. Their starts look the same. Okay, think about it. Rusty Hearts, for example, looks and operates kind of like Grand Chase in how it operates as far as like what it's doing in its mission system. Even their quest dialogues look vaguely similar. Like, okay, you get a mission, you go and you do it. Okay, that's fine. Well, in order to progress in the story, you have to go back to the same area where you did the previous mission, go through the same steps, because the mission area does not change to defeat a different boss on a different difficulty. And you get the same stat screens at the end. You get to pick a prize, and you get ranked on your performance, and your prize is reflective on the rank that you got. ranging from triple S to F, I think, or maybe D. I'm not sure. I don't think I've ever got an F on one of those missions. I think an F is pretty much you died and you don't get to continue on. My personal opinion on the new MMOs, if I decide to pick one up, it better be damn good. I've been playing video games for a very long time, and I'm not going to say I'm an authority. I'm not going to say my opinion counts, but the experience alone will speak for itself. Well, I hope that answered your question, Mr. Trollbane. I'm Luminary, and I'll see you next time.